Welcome to the Essential Skills for Humaning podcast, where we explore the fundamental abilities and insights that make us better humans. Here's your host, Christina Eanes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Essential Skills for Humaning. I have the pleasure of speaking with a dear friend and colleague, Stephanie Farlow, today. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm really excited to be back on this podcast with you and to have a great conversation as we usually do.
Obviously.
I'll be.
Okay, so today we are talking about Know Thyself, the superpower of self-awareness. Now, before we get into that topic, which I can't wait to hear about some of the latest products that you've produced, Can you share a little bit about your background with our listeners?
Yes, well, absolutely. So I've been in the people and organizational development space since 2008. So yes, I'm a bit old, but we're not going to say how old. And I spent the majority of my time developing this with the FBI, which is where you and I met as actually my senior manager in the leadership development program. But when I first began, it was an additional role to my main job. And what I'm very proud to say is now it is how I sustain my livelihood. And because of that, because I do what I love, it doesn't feel like work. It's getting paid to actually grow with other people in a particular workshop or seminar or whatever it is that we're doing. So to me, it's a privilege and a joy.
Awesome. And if you want to learn more, go to eanestraining.com. Yes. Shameless plug.
Never shameless, just a fact.
All right. So today we're essentially talking about self-awareness, right? Know yourself. Where do you want to start? Maybe defining it, or where do you want to go?
So I know definitions are really important, but because people can find out what standard textbook definitions are, I actually want to explore this from really a mindset perspective. So I'm taking this a little differently. So just overall, I would say, and the words themselves are pretty self-explanatory. The importance is that it's so critical for us to achieve our goals. It helps us to do that. And the critical piece is without taking away from the success of others.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, from other people viewing their success as taken away from you, whatever that perspective is. So developing that requires us to be willing to do the internal work, that necessary work, which you and I have done on our various parallel journeys. And it's sometimes really tough to have that mirror that you're looking at and realize, okay, take the polish off. And this is me in my raw state. And that begins with having the first, really an abundance mindset. So I'm kind of like jumping around a little bit, but that spirit of there's plenty for everyone, and how I'm growing and how I'm improving myself only will lead to really our optimal success is really how I see it.
Everyone's optimal success, right? I also hear a bit of a growth mindset in there, right? Ooh. Not being, what is it? Like upset with the success of others. Yes. Everyone grows together. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's actually my number 2 point. Just kind of, it's like you're reading my mind, Chris. And that is absolutely the second piece, is to embrace that. What I loved about Carol Dweck's book is that talent is static. And with everything else that we have come across, it's a potential, but it does not guarantee success. Success comes from the work. Success comes from having an abundance mindset and a mindset of, hey, I might not be really strong in this area. I am really interested in being strong in this area, so I'm going to do the work. I'm willing to put forth the effort to be an expert, whatever expert means to you. And growth mindset, therefore, is dynamic. And it shifts and moves because we can't grow without dynamicism. Whereas, again, talent is static. And I think that is something it really took me until recently to really embrace that,
Yeah.
because I was brought up like, oh, you're so talented in this, so you should be able to do that really well. Well, I had no interest in that.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that leave us, right?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That also reminds me of our work in Clifton Strengths, right? So
Yes.
we have these natural talents, but they don't really become strengths unless we work on them.
Yes, and that's a
Yeah.
perfect tie-in, because it's probably from reviewing those contents as we prep for delivery for our clients that really, like the thought process all came together.
Yeah.
And that's so key to really being self-aware, to developing and deepening our self-awareness. If we feel especially that, we could use a little extra work in that area.
Oh, absolutely. So, what are some strategies maybe that listeners can take away today
Yeah.
to help deepen their self awareness?
So the first piece would definitely be around feedback. That's really like the first step, which for some of us, especially when I started on this journey of personal growth and continual growth, that was the hardest piece for me.
Mm.
Whether it was reinforcing something that I did well or redirecting behavior that was not in service to what I was trying to accomplish. Either way, I didn't want to hear feedback. I was so
Yeah.
resistant to it. And what, in retrospect, upon reflection, that meant was that I had, rather than a growth mindset, a very fixed mindset.
Mm.
And that was, feedback helps us redirect those mindsets. So those two mindsets, abundance and growth mindsets, are so critical to us being able to embrace feedback. So it starts with that willingness to shift, to consciously shift how we view the world in order to embrace feedback. So say, hey, love me, hate me, tell me everything I'm doing wrong. If you want to tell me where I'm going well, we're embracing it, because it's so important for us to realize that our brains have built-in biases.
Mm-hmm.
And as self-aware as we are, there's a limit to that, because it's so difficult for us to assess ourselves 100% of the time. Heroes of their own stories are always going to have biases. So
Yes.
it's so critical we have trusted people, and perhaps people who don't know us very well, to give us that first impression feedback, which is
Mm-hmm.
also very critical.
Yeah. So let's say, actually, two questions here. The first one, for someone who has, let's say, baggage around receiving feedback, maybe they immediately go in defense mode, whatever, they
Yeah.
have some sort of strong emotional reaction to any kind of feedback.
Yeah.
Any suggestions for easing them into it?
Yes. So as the person providing it, is to set the stage and set the environment
Mm-hmm.
to emphasize that this is in pursuit of helping them grow. And it's also important that the person asks the person for permission. As a coach, that's one of the things that I do, especially if I'm coaching a leader who I can sense is resistant to feedback. I will flat out ask that person, are you open to an observation
Mm-hmm.
that I have? And if the person said yes, then we go forward. And the way that I ask the question, we can be very intentional and say, yes, I'm asking you because I'm here to help you grow. They obviously know that in a coaching relationship. But I would say, let's say this is like a personal experience or personal relationship. Just to be very clear, like, I'm sharing this because I want to strengthen our relationship and I want us to grow together. It's so important to make it a joint experience and not
Mm-hmm.
about pointing fingers, blaming, or making it seem like you as the feedback provider is better than the other person. So we
Yeah.
want to minimize that as much as possible.
What about from the viewpoint of the receiver
Oof.
seeking out feedback? How do they get more comfortable?
Yeah. So as with everything, it takes practice,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that first initial step where we're on the journey, all right, I'm going to proactively, right? Because a lot of times we're passive receivers. We don't actually go out and seek feedback.
Yeah.
And when we feel like that inside of us, okay, we're ready, I really want feedback from somebody, is to withhold judgment on the information coming in and to express gratitude, quite frankly, for the other person's willingness. As both givers and receivers of feedback, especially when it's perhaps a behavior that needs redirecting. For the person who is given the feedback, it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Because even if you know the person well, even if you're setting the environment, depending on what's going on in the receiver's day, there's a litany, a wide array of reactions that may or may not come through. So understanding that, just to be prepared for any situations, and so critical again to have a mindset of gratitude that this is helping me grow, and just know that it is difficult. It's a difficult process.
Yeah. I could also see too, a little bit of, for lack of a better term, exposure therapy.
Ooh.
Ask for a little bit, then ask for a little bit more, ask for it more regularly. Yeah. And then what is the 2% truth, even if you don't agree with it? What's the 2% truth? Yeah.
Yes, all the above. And that intentionality is that huge part of it, to be focused and say, this is what I'm truly asking for, and not make it, oh yeah, sure, sounds good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Now you said you had some other strategies.
Definitely. So the first piece is really about embracing feedback. And once we gather our data, I'm really big. I was an analyst in various I guess areas for most of my career. So I like to gather data. And once we have the information that we need, and it's important that we don't get distracted with collecting too much, because sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. But gather however much we can handle at a given period of time, and look for patterns. Look for areas where, okay, perhaps maybe I do, for example, roll my eyes at every single meeting. And perhaps I need to stop doing that because that's coming up across multiple people providing me this feedback. That would be what we call a clue. So in our analysis, we look for clues as to where we can begin. And it's really important then to sit with that feedback and ask, to be honest with yourself and ask, does it ring true? If it doesn't ring true, then reflect on maybe situations where either you saw it, you didn't see it, and then go back to the person who gave you the feedback and ask, could you give me some specifics, if they hadn't already, on kind of those areas? Yeah. And then it's also a great time to take a step back and really, I call it going back to fundamentals. Who are we? Who am I? Who are you? And that comes down to exploring our values. Yeah. And we start with our values and figuring out what our moral compass is. Yeah. And that's a great piece of exploration. It's a lot of work. It sounds simple. That's the thing. And you and I have talked about this. Yeah, it's so simple. Like, you just evaluate yourself, go through your values. Yeah, it's so simple. We should be able to, rattle
it's simple, but not easy.
Exactly. Exactly. Because I challenge all the listeners out there right now. I mean, if I were to ask you what your top 2 values are, could you tell me, poof, instantaneously? Or is it going to take some work? Yeah. And so that's part of that, knowing oneself. And because once we know ourselves really, really well, we can weather any storm through, just as a tree. Like, my analogy would be a tree. You think of these sturdy trunks that withstand weather elements that we can only imagine, from hail to hurricanes to, whatever. And they stay rooted and strong because they know who they are. Those trees know what they are, who they are. So that would be the analogy for really developing our self-awareness, is to be that solid trunk.
I love it. Okay. Did you have one more strategy for us?
I do. And that would be around, I've actually written a book. I call it a journey book. It's a combination of a journal and a workbook that really helps explore our self-awareness, really our personal development. I call it a very intimate personal journey. And there's 9 sections to really help guide you. Every section has an introduction. Think of it as if you want to. It's like my voice in your head that you're reading to help guide you through the exercises. It's kind of like our analogy of, hey, all this stuff is simple in concept, difficult to do. The book, it's small in stature and size, and will take you a lot longer than you would anticipate in actually completing it. With the caveat that our personal journeys are never fully complete, because it's a lifelong journey.
It's not a destination. It's not like, I have arrived, I am self-aware.
Exactly. And because if we met somebody who said that to us, I don't know about you, Chris, but I'd be running the other way.
I'd be like, let's have a deeper conversation here. No.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I do love it because it brings in the other things that you said about mindset. We become more self-aware about our patterns. We make changes. Then we need to be self-aware about who this new person is, of our evolution.
And I love how you kind of, it's almost like a visual that I had as you were saying that at the end of the day, we are in this one lifetime, we are a person, right? You are Chris. I'm Stephanie. And there's nothing that says that throughout that journey, we cannot make shifts and changes. It's almost expected that we do, because could you imagine if we never evolved, that we never grew? Basically, we would all still be in diapers. That's what it means to never grow. We'd be like infants doing like infant talk. We would never evolve. And I don't think that's something that anybody really, really wants to have happen. And the wonderful thing is that no matter how old we are able to, our brains are so amazing. We can develop new habits. We can evolve right up until our physical bodies say we're done.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. We can learn languages, instruments, whatever we want to do until our final days on the planet. So there's no excuse to not always try to develop our self-awareness.
Exactly. Oh, I'm sure there's excuses. They're just not valid. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly.
I'm kidding. Now, you had mentioned your book. Can you share a little bit more about like how people can access it, all that good stuff?
Oh, absolutely. So it is available on Amazon, and it's print only because studies have shown that actually handwriting, especially when we're working on ourselves, on our personal journeys, it really helps the change stick, for lack of a better term. It really helps imprint what it is that we're committed to doing in our brain. So again, it's available on Amazon, and the title is called Korean Chopsticks and an American Spoon. And I'm sure people are probably scratching their heads. How is it that a self-development journey book is called this? If you read the intro, you'll get your question answered.
Oh, come on. Answer the question now.
Oh.
People want to know.
Okay. I'll give you a
preview.
The Cliff's Notes version. /preview. So I am bicultural. I grew up, I am Korean, but I grew up for the most part in the US. And it's been a lifetime struggle trying to figure out who I am from that bicultural perspective. Am I supposed to be Korean, but not too Korean? Am I supposed to be all American? And I'll be honest, especially during my time working with the FBI, I felt the need to be just completely American because of the work that we do, because of our adherence to the Constitution and allegiance to our country. And since I've stepped away from federal service, from government service in general, I've been able to explore more of my Korean side. And I've been figuring out what that embrace of the two cultures is. So that's been my personal journey. And I consider the book that I've written, it's a journey book, a way to nourish our own self-discovery. And I also love to eat. So I had to find a way.
What?
I know, shocking. So I had to figure out a way to put like a food reference.
Of course.
So Korean chopsticks are very distinctive in that they're long, thin, and flat, and traditionally metal. And then I pair that with an American spoon. So it kind of bridges my two main cultures. And they've helped me in some ways. It's been a struggle. And I would say currently in my present state has really helped develop who I am as a person and helped me through the exercises that are in the book, which I have personally done myself, helped me embrace the whole me, embracing both my Korean and my American side.
I love it.
Thank you.
We will make sure there are links to the book in the episode description as well.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we are at that point. Your final piece of advice for our listeners.
Oh, goodness. Building self-awareness is a difficult journey. And it's worth undertaking. You will need plenty of boxes of tissues. And I challenge anyone who does this work for themselves without needing said tissues, because I don't know about you, Chris. I've cried a lot. I've done a lot of crying. And part of what really helped me on my journey was actually also my journey on becoming a leadership coach during that coaching training. And that's where a lot of this, I really had to unpack myself. I had to get to know myself to be an effective coach. And so that's part of the reason why my self-discovery journey is always going to be, for me, a lifetime experience. So with that, yes, it's a difficult journey. And it's an openness to who we are, as well as how we show up in our world and impact our environments. It gives us a window, a different perspective when we are open to this journey. And to be able to step back and truly, it's almost like getting a 360 perspective on how we show up in the world that we can only really get from developing our self-awareness. And it's really, really, it's an amazing experience. It's humbling. And with that, it's something just to emphasize we can't do alone, and to bring trusted people along on our journeys, family, friends, colleagues. We none of us accomplish what we accomplish on our own. And that's the other piece. And this self-awareness journey is, I would say it's a team sport. It's definitely a team sport. So, think about who you want on that team for your success.
I love it. Yeah, as I heard, I can't remember who said it, but self-awareness is the meta skill of the 21st century.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Because I think that's, yes, especially in this fast-paced world, in our hyper-focused social media, internet living, I've actually become social media free.
Yes,
and
same here.
I love it. And it's just been something I have loved and embraced. It actually feels like I have, I forget which pill it was, but I have freed myself from the matrix.
Oh, the red pill. Yeah,
red pill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You took the red pill.
I took the red pill. There you go.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us today, Steph.
Oh, thanks so much, Chris, for having me.
Transform your organization with Eanes Training. Our premier interpersonal skills training programs are tailored to enhance your organization's employees in communication, emotional intelligence, leadership, and more. We have a catalog of expert-led courses designed to meet the dynamic needs of today's workforce. With highly engaging in-person, hybrid, and remote sessions, we can help elevate your organization's performance and success. Learn more at eanestraining.com. Thank you for tuning in to the Essential Skills for Humaning podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights to enhance your journey as a human being. Remember, practice makes progress. Keep honing those essential skills, and until next time, keep being the best version of yourself. For more resources, visit eanestraining.com.